Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. For today's midweek meta deck, we are playing Niko Altaparmakov's Belgian Legacy Cup winning Delver deck. So congratulations to Niko for winning the tournament. It's a pretty impressive feat. And I believe they won their first dual land after completing this tournament. So again, congratulations to that. Love to see some more people getting some legacy cards and getting into it. And an impressive win for sure. So, we've played Delver on this channel before. We've played Delver decks that look a lot like this. So clearly, this is a deck that works and functions and is doing well in tournaments. So let's get into it. We are a tempo deck. We want to put a 1-drop into play, like a Dragon's Rage Channeler or Delver of Secrets, and then disrupt our opponent with our suite of counter magic and removal to keep our opponent off balance until these creatures can win the game, and then possibly reload with a big Murktide Regent to finish things off. This list does have a green card and a single green source to cast it. Most of the time we're going to be playing this for the front side, which is the exile top 2 cards of your library until next end step you may play those cards. So this is a card advantage engine in our deck. Well, not an engine, but a spell, shall we say. But sometimes we will fetch this trop and we will cast it as a threat. So it's in the threat pile in this breakdown, but it's not necessarily going to be a threat all the time. But it's something we can lean into. We also have this Brazen Borrower, which I've put in the sort of interaction slot rather than a threat, but this is a pretty serviceable creature, although 1 toughness does mean it eats Bowmasters sometimes. To make this deck all work, we've got ourselves a whole bunch of cantrips. Mishra's Bauble can give us a sort of scry effect when we use it with a fetch land, which we have plenty of, so that's quite useful to have. But the main thing it does is fuel out these Dragon's Rage Channeler, which is really helpful for getting Delirium, because sorcery-wise, we're basically just on Ponders, so we're probably going to need a Mishra's Bauble or a Ponder a lot of the time to get our Delirium, but we played this deck before, we know how it rolls. We've also got a full set of Wastelands, which is something I'm a big fan of. Really helps the tempo game plan nicely, and we have 1 basic island, which is very relevant when you look into our sideboard at Blood Moon. So having Blood Moon in our deck that is basically just blue-red means that we forego green spells in the matchups where Blood Moon is good, and we just jam a Blood Moon where possible, and that's going to be pretty good. We can live without our tropical island. If we have our basic island, then we're going to have all the mountains we need, and we can really shut our opponents down that way. As for the rest of the sideboard, we've got some Pyroblast for blowing up things like Murktide. We don't really have much in the way of dealing with Murktides in the main deck. We can bounce them, and maybe if they're small enough, we can Unholy Heat them. Other than that, it's just counter spells or racing. So that's a thing we're going to need. That's why there's 3 of them in there. We've got some Graveyard Hate in the Grafdigger's Cage and Surgical. We've got a couple of Counterbalance, so it saves us trading 2 for 1 with our Force of Wills when we're in slightly fairer matchups where the Counterbalance can do some work, or it's just extra counter spells when we really need them. The Force of Negation, again, more counter spells to stop the decks from going underneath us, like combo decks and stuff. Submerge for Marit Lage, that sort of jam. Knight of the Reliquaries. This definitely has some use to it. And we've also got the Hydroblast because of all the sort of red stompy goblins or mono red prison, those decks floating around, and a couple of meltdowns to deal with artifact decks. So we've got a lot of tools. We've got the ability to find them with all of our cantrips. We do have 1 Portent as well, which is a sorcery. I was kind of innovated as a card for the Eternal Weekend Prague. The winning deck list ran this, and sort of people have been rolling with it ever since. And yeah, that's the deck. We've played it before, sort of. This is a slightly different build with the Force of Negation in the main deck, and Unholy Heat isn't something you always get. You know, they've got a few slots to play with when it comes to Delver, so let's see how this particular alignment works out for us. Remember to like and subscribe, and let's jam some Delver. If you're looking to play Legacy on MTGO like me, why not try Card Hoarder? They're a rental service that I personally use, and I found them better than other rental services that I've used in the past, so why not give them a try? Alright, we are into the first round. We have Delver into double Force of Will, which is something. We're going to have to rely on this Bauble. We've got some draws coming our way. I'm not happy about the amount of land we have, but I think I am going to give it a whirl. Like, this is basically what we want. We just want some land to go with it, possibly some removal if that's the thing that we need. Alright, a Ponder. So this could be Show and Tell, or this could be something more akin to a mirror match. Our hand is not necessarily where I want to be for a mirror match. I'd rather not be trading 2 for 1 in the mirror match with forces. Alright, we've drawn the land. Things are fine. We've got ourselves a Bauble. We can use this on our opponent's turn to set up our Delver of Secrets. We target ourselves, then we stack the abilities how we want, so we're more likely to get a flip, because we get 2 looks at it instead of just the 1. There is a Wasteland. If they Wasteland us but don't have a threat to follow up with, that's pretty fine for us. Or a removal spell. A Brainstorm. Okay. Interesting sequencing. But I guess they were trying to play around Daze. It does feel more like a mirror. So trading 1-for-1 resources is going to be good for our opponent if we're having to trade 2-for-1. Alright, let's just look at the top card of our library here. A Wasteland. Okay, so we want to stack it so the draw is the first thing that happens here. So we put the Delver on the bottom and then the draw. So then we get 2 looks. And reveal this Ponder. Boom. So we could be trying to Wasteland our opponent here, or we could be trying to jam another Delver of Secrets, which I think is probably where I want to be here. We're going to go get ourselves... I think we do want another Volk here in case we draw any of our red spells, but we don't have any red spells right now. Interesting. Alright, I'm going to get the basic island here. If they Wasteland us again, that could shut us off of quite a lot of action, so we may as well play around that and secure that we get to cast this Ponder, unless we have to double Force of Will. But our opponent is definitely on the tempo side because they've got Wastelands rather than Soul Lands in their deck for something like a Sneak and Show. A Delver of Secrets. Okay. I don't think this is our fight. Like, Murktide is the big thing that breaks open this matchup usually. But we're also ahead with pressure, so if we can flip this Delver now and crack for 6, then our opponent's Delver's possible to be a blocker rather than an attacker, which is a-okay for us. Okay, I chose not to shuffle their library. We also get to Wasteland our opponent in this turn cycle if that's the thing we want to do. I love this to flip. Scalding Tarn. That's not a flip. Would I trade my 1-1 for their 1-1 at this point? Possibly. Let's have a ponder and get more information about how we want to play this turn. They can Daze this. They did not Daze this. A Delver is interesting. I do quite like the Wasteland as well. I think we're going to put the Flooded Strand on the bottom, then the Wasteland, then the Delver. So let's just attack, and then we're going to try and keep pressuring their mana base with Wastelands and using the Force of Wills to stop a Murktide coming in. Alright, they're going for the trade here. So we know our Delver won't flip if we play it next turn. Right, so we've got another mana source over there. A Lightning Bolt. Is this where our fight is? No, I don't believe it is. Our fight is to make sure our Murktide Regent resolves. So we know we've got a fetch land on top of our library. So we could Wasteland our opponent and play a Delver. I think I'm cool to keep doing getting the Delver going and keeping them off of mana sources. It's unfortunate knowing this Delver won't flip, but if it draws some action out from our opponent, that's good. Alright, got another land. We actually want this other land at this point, so that we can do Murktide Regent paying around Daze. To attack here, our opponent could be Grixis, but I think you would Bowmasters before our creature flips if you have one in hand. Alright, getting the damages in. Our Murktide Regent is not going to be very big at this moment in time. This is going to be a Seek the Beast. This is an interesting option to force. I think we are just on the make sure the Murktide Regent doesn't come into play. Alright, Dragon's Rage Channeler is pretty good. It will be a 3-3. They've got instant sorcery creature land. So we're on, you know, probably like a 70 card mirror match, roughly. Right, so you're getting the Questing Druid down first. Then they'll play this Dragon's Rage Channeler, and I think our opponent is getting away from us here. They've traded 1-for-1 with some of our stuff, and then we've kind of got this clunky 2-for-1 in this Force of Will. So let's see how this pans out for us. A Daze, we will reveal that. The problem with Murktide Regent here is it's not very big, unless we have to force it through. So if we attack here, they can trade. They've got 4 cards in hand. We don't really make a very good Murktide Regent is the problem. A 4-4 Murktide Regent is pretty reasonable on this board though. Alright. And if we have to fight over it, that actually works out okay for us. I will crack this as well so we don't get stuck by weird timings on additional Dazes. Blue, blue. Ponder is the only one we get to remove here, which is a shame. We've got loads of land, so we just shred a bunch of those. Not the Murktide Regent I wanted. I was hoping we'd get more of a fight out of it so that we could like fire off a Daze or a Force of Will and then get an additional one when it resolved. But our opponent just didn't have that. This dodges Lightning Bolt. It can gobble up a Channeler. An Unholy Heat targeting our Murktide Regent. That's pretty good. We're going to let them Surveil first and then try and Force of Will this. I think we're going to keep this Daze in hand rather than the Force. Might be difficult to leverage a good Daze here. But we'll see. Right, our opponent has a Daze here. Feels like our opponent's got an additional Daze. Alright, so our opponent kind of gets to have it off here. I don't think we're winning this one. I think we can save our time here. Like, their creature's going to be too big for us to deal with. We're not winning that fight. I'd rather value my time because these games can get a little bit in the weeds sometimes. So, Hydroblast and Pyroblast, both pretty useful here, as is the Counterbalance. I dislike 2-for-1 counter spells here. They do not feel like where I need to be. All of our red removal is very good though. Daze is quite an easy thing for our opponent to play around. And we'll trim one Daze to make way for all of this stuff. Although Daze is nice to secure a Counterbalance first up. So that's definitely something to consider. We definitely want all of our removal. Our cantrips mean that our Murktide is likely to be bigger than theirs, so I think we want to keep that. I think it's either a Daze or a Bauble that goes here. But I think we're going to try it without the Daze because it's just such an easy thing to play around and we don't want to have a big glut of them in our hands. Alright, this hand seems good. I'll keep this. Our opponents are less likely to Wasteland us if we've got like a nice threat in play. So that's what we're going to do. And put in the channel in. So we could have gone and got a basic island and played like the Delver. But I think we're going to want access to our lightning bolts in this particular game. Right, not a Wasteland, so that's fine. Opponents got themselves a Volcanic Island and a Dragon's Rage Channeler, sure. So we get to enjoy being on the player quite a bit here. So we get to play this. We will lightning bolt this creature. Get ourselves a cheeky Surveil. I don't want this Daze. It's pretty good with our Wasteland we've got here. So I'll take this for now. Again, we're not getting the full Surveil value if we leave this on top. But it's pretty handy. Let's see what our opponent's working out here. Alright, so we are very much the aggro here. Got a little bit of mana disruption to turn our Daze on and make sure that's good. They don't know that we only have the one land. Alright, there's a land from our opponent. Brazen Borrower. We're going to cast this Portent, targeting ourselves. Tropical Island we will leave on top of our library. Okay, so we want to draw the land right now. And then what do we want underneath it? A Brainstorm or a Hydroblast? Probably the Brainstorm rather than Hydroblast. We'll not shuffle. Oh, we draw a card at the beginning of the next turn, don't we? It's not Ponder, is it? So we don't get the Delver down this turn, we get it down next turn. But we get to hold up Lightning Bolt when we do that. Now that our opponent knows we missed a land there, they probably imagine that we have a land in our top three. So a Lightning Bolt here. Just preserve our creature. I think we still want this. We're going to fight over this with their own Daze? No. Okay. So we get to have a little Tropical Island. Now it's our opponent's turn to either deploy a threat or do some cantrip. Okay, so they're playing a land first, so they can play around potential stuff we might have. We can't Daze if we don't have a land. So it's kind of interesting that they wouldn't just Brainstorm first. But maybe they're looking for a red spell here. That's why they wanted to play this, so they could Lightning Bolt. Right, so we're about to draw a Brainstorm here. Well, I'd rather preserve my red or my green mana here. It's an interesting one. Let's attack with the Channeler. I think I'd rather preserve my red mana here. So we're going to play this Delver of Secrets, which can flip because we know the top card of our library is a Hydroblast. Right, they've got a Pyroblast. Sure. We have a Borrow which can bounce a Murktide, if that's what we're worried about. Okay, we're probably going to see us Seek the Beast in our opponent's turn here. This Hydroblast is going to snag real nicely. So let's just go to attacks. And bash. And then we will Hydroblast this Seek the Beast. Get blasted. I don't want to Daze. It's kind of nice to reach for. We put it on top of our library. We can always mill it with another spell. But if our opponent has a Murktide or something without another land, I'd like to at least be able to try and Daze it before having to borrow it. Right, I didn't play another land, so the Daze still feels pretty good. So I'm going to draw it. I'm going to Brainstorm now. Sure, I'll take more threats. So, putting 2 cards back. We want to keep the Borrower in the mix. Kind of want to keep this Hydroblast and this Bolt available though. And the Daze. So it's kind of awkward with what the Delver does if we're playing it. But if we're playing the Delver, we don't need both of these right now. So we can go like Counterbalance, Bolt, and then play the Delver. Alright, so we've assembled lethal damage here. We just need to push it through one more turn cycle. We got here Pyroblast. Feels like a Pyroblast. Seek the Beast. I'm willing to fight over this and also maintain our red land here. This is also lethal with either of our threats. So they're going to have less mana to deploy whatever they get off of Seek the Beast anyway. A Hydroblast and a Lightning Bolt. That's a real good hit for them there. So they get to kill both of our threats next turn. That's not great for us. We have to work up to the mana to play a Borrower. Yep, there's a Hydroblast. They've correctly pointed it the right way around. Rather than trying to bolt the first one and then realizing they can't do it, our opponent can read their cards. Alright, we have a Lightning Bolt. That's something. Alright, we'll play this Volcanic out and pass. We've got Murktide covered and we can kill the Questing Beast. Don't really want to bounce the Questing Beast. Sorry, Questing Druid, not Questing Beast. That's a different card entirely. Also one I don't particularly like bouncing, but bouncing the Druid is much worse because they get additional cards. Right, here comes the Druid. So we have to make a choice about what we want to do with our Lightning Bolt here. This is a tough call. Putting our opponent to a low life total is really important. I think we're just going to let this Channeler hit. I think I'd rather bolt the Channeler because this is the flying blocker, potentially. But we're going to hold on to this for now. Counterbalance that we knew was incoming. Right, I think we fire down this Counterbalance now. Maybe it gets some permission out of our opponent's hand. If not, it buys us a little screen where we might be able to stop what our opponent's doing. Alright, so there's a Daze. So we can't Lightning Bolt their Druid anymore because they can grow it in response to stuff. But we do have one less permission to go through. And our opponent is on 4. So you need them to crack a fetch land and help us out. Alternatively, we can throw out a Borrower and attack with it. A Misty Rainforest. Okay, that's a fine one. That allows us to deploy the Borrower and attempt to win the game next turn. But our life total is not the healthiest it's ever been. I'm going to take 4 here. Sure. I'm going to play a Murktide. Feels like a Murktide. Opponent's got 2 cards in hand. Alright, so I'm going to go for the end of turn Borrower as a creature. And then hopefully clear this with a Pyroblast. And then finish our opponent off with a Lightning Bolt. Daze obviously gets us here. Okay, they had another Daze. That's 3 copies of Daze. Okay. So Lightning Bolt still wins us the game. We do have an answer for this Murktide Regent anyway. Interesting. Destroy this guy. Do I think our opponent has the 4th Daze? No. Do I think our opponent has a Pyroblast? Yes. Maybe. Blue. So we've got an instant here. Sorcery. Another instant. Another instant. Another instant. Another instant. Yeah. So we can make our guy large. And still have Delirium available to us. Alright, no end of turn Pyroblast. That might just be because they're playing around a Daze that could be in our hand. Yeah, there's the Pyroblast. Okay, so we're going to take, what? Possibly 9 this turn. Depending on how the Surveil goes for our opponent. Yeah. If they got Lightning Bolt, we lose. They got 1 card in hand, though. Preordain. Just digging for that Lightning Bolt. Oh, is this the sorcery they need as well? This is the sorcery they need. So this is lethal now, right? 7, 8, 9, 10. Yep. Yep, our opponent just out-delvered us a bit there. Yeah, that's unfortunate. So we could have gone for the more defensive line of bouncing the Murktide and things, but we're already kind of behind on the Questing Druid. And I kind of went for a line of trying to win the game rather than trying not to lose. And some of the time that's going to pan out, and some of the time it's not. And this was one of the cases where it didn't. Let's go to round 2. We're on the play for round 2 here. We've got a threat and some stuff to do afterwards. I'm pretty happy about this one. Let's do some delvering. I'd obviously like to avoid running into a Wasteland here. But Wastelanding someone when they've already got a threat can be a little bit risky. But if they're a lands deck and they play multiple lands this turn, offer something like an exploration, then it becomes a lot more reasonable to Wasteland us. An Urza's Saga. Well, I think we all know what I'm going to do with my Wasteland now. So we have a choice about what we're playing here. Are we pondering? I think we're probably pondering. Force of Will. We don't really want this. This can go into our graveyard, I think. That's instant sorcery. So this is the other land that we do want. I think we want the Brainstorm in our hand for this turn. That gives us access to double Force of Will. But I quite like having... I guess we're not doing the Questing Druid immediately anyway. Alright. Just take out this as a Saga before we get rocked by it. So our opponent probably has an Ancient Tomb in their hand. So we could be looking at anything from Saga Storm to 8 cast to some sort of stompy deck. Grim Monolith. Are we hitting the payoff here? I think we're probably better off trying to go for the payoff. We're looking more like a Tony Scapone dual deck is the sort of vibe we've got going on right now. So if we play this guy out, crack this. So we basically want to Brainstorm into another blue card. So we want to turn our creatures into 3/3s. Wasteland is kind of interesting. But I think we're just trying to flip these now so we have the pressure. Murktide Regent. That is a blue card, but that is a creature. So that can go into the graveyard. So we just need to find one blue card. So we can hold up double Force of Will. And there it is. So probably not really an Unholy Heat matchup either. So we'll bury that and that. And now we get to swing for 3. We've got double Force of Will available against the combo deck. So that's normally a pretty reasonable spot to be in. If we don't have to Force of Will, we can then Brainstorm and get a bit more juice going. A Lotus Petal from our opponent. This Ancient Tomb is obviously helping us out in terms of our clock. The One Ring. We say no to the One Ring, pitching Delver of Secrets. So we put this into our graveyard, and we also put the Unholy Heat into the graveyard. They're going to force back here. They are. We will do a force again and get some surveils going. A Daze. I think the time for Daze. Has that gone or not? Like, we just want to stop our opponent having spells, right? So I think we're going to put this on top of our library. Right, we can't draw Force of Will and blue cards, so this is the best thing we've got going. Alright, we stopped their scary thing. Grim Monolith is used up now, unless they have a key here. An Emery. Sure, that's pretty good. That gives them the One Ring next turn anyway. Okay, maybe not. They would take 6 here. 7, 8. They would need to find another mana source of the One Ring. I don't think this game is over, to be honest. It's interesting. Okay, so our opponent is doing some artifact stuff. So, Meltdowns are certainly not without merit. Hydroblast can counter Transmute Artifact and Emery, but that's about it. But that might be enough to be good enough. Circuit Extraction, actively good against Emery. These Counterbalance, these Force of Negations are pretty good against what our opponent's trying to do. Blood Moon is pretty reasonable because it shuts off the Urza's Saga line, but we already have that covered with Wasteland. So I think we don't want that. One thing we do have to be careful of is our opponent pivoting into the beatdown plan with Lodestone Golems into Worm Coils and that sort of jazz. So what am I not enthused about? Liner Bolt is a very clean answer to Lodestone Golem. 3 damage, boom, we're done. So I think Unholy Heat probably goes here. And our plan is to counterspell or bounce the Wormcoil Engine. I'm not convinced Daze is good against the big mana deck that plays around Daze quite well. I don't think we want all 3 of these Pyroblasts either. So we're looking at 2 more cuts here. So probably a Ponder rather than Portent, just for the Delirium purposes here. And a Bauble. I think I'm okay with that. And to keep our pressure, I like having answers for their plan. And obviously, lightning bolts can just go to face. Okay, we have Force of Negation for their scary thing. We have a threat, but we have no mana sources. So let's mulligan. The Curse of the Single Island. Alright, we're mulliganing. This is fine. We keep this. We throw away 2 cards here. Yikes. I think it's Questing Druid and a Misty Rainforest. And the plan is to use this Bauble to try and get towards pressure. By turning this into a 3/3 and hope it finds a land. We get 2 looks with it. Painter's Servant. That is unexpected. I don't think this is our fight here. I've chosen red. Interesting. Right, so we're going to go and get ourselves the Volcanic Island here. So our opponent is actually on like a mono blue painter build instead, which is kind of interesting. Let's get our little friend down. Let's do some surveilling. Lightning Bolt. That's a pretty clean answer to the creature in play right now. So I'll take that. That's what our opponent's working with over there. Alert Spell. Not that exciting, but a good example of why the Dazes aren't amazing here. So we're looking at being able to bolt this painter. They could try and kill us this turn if they have all the correct tools, which they appear to have here. The One Ring. I will try and stop this. The island is probably okay here. Let's just Brainstorm and Lightning Bolt. Sure. So our opponent got forced to fire back. Or have they got a blast? They've got a Hydroblast. Yep. Okay, so the One Ring is in, and our chances of winning this game are maybe about 10%, I think, in the face of the One Ring. It's not going to be an easy card for us to beat. Yep, they can get the damage in here. We can't damage them while they've got the One Ring anyway. So not going to plan this one. We don't have any like Null Rod style effects to really jam our opponent up. Right, let's do a Brainstorm. Pyroblast. No, that's not really where I want to be here. Wasteland is not unhelpful. So if we bury this, I don't know how we're supposed to win this one, if I'm being honest. Put this Misty Rainforest away, and then this Questing Druid. And then when we lightning bolt this, we can mill our Questing Druid and get this to be a 3/3. Or if they present us with another target, maybe we get to block with our Channeler against their Painter's Servant. But again, active One Ring is probably going to be good enough to win this game on its own. It's an extra fiery ring as well because it's painted red. Right, so they're playing an island out. An Emery. Yeah, that's a pretty good one. This means that we probably have to lightning bolt the Emery rather than the Painter. So hopefully our opponent attacks with the Painter. There is a Grindstone. Our opponent has some mana floating. So we have to lightning bolt this Painter's Servant in response to the Grindstone activation here. Questing Druid goes into the graveyard. And we're just dead here, aren't we? Right, so we'll play out the Channeler here. Attack. The only thing we get to really do here is try and take our opponent down a peg mana-wise. So we're going to blast their Ancient Tomb to try and stop them from killing us immediately. But they're drawing 3 additional cards this turn with the One Ring. But they are going to 8. So they will die in their next upkeep. So need to either win here or re-ring. They do have the One Ring in the graveyard, so it's possible that they get to re-ring here. Ottawara, Soaring City. That's not ring mana here. They've got a Lotus Petal in their graveyard. They're playing the Lotus Petal, so they have 4 mana now. Grim Monolith. Okay, if they have Painter's Servant right now, that's enough to win. There it is. And they're going to point this Grindstone at us. We don't have any cards in hand, so they're just going to go for it and win the game. Okay, do you want to do anything differently now? Now we know their Painter, the Unholy Heat looks a little bit better, although we can't reliably get our Unholy Heat working is kind of the issue here. We need to have counter spells for the One Ring, so we need the Force of Negations. Pyroblast hits some of their things. I think we just go back in as is. We don't have a turn 1 threat. We don't have a cantrip either to kind of get further into our deck. And we're kind of at the mercy of the top of our deck here. I don't think we can actually keep this one. This one is aggressive, but doesn't really answer our opponent's stuff. However, we get to do a Questing Druid on like turn 2. I think this is a hand where we start off with a Delver rather than the Dragon's Rage Channeler. So I think we keep this, and we're going to throw back a Channeler because we want to keep a blue card for Force of Will or Force of Negation if we draw it. So this is just good old-fashioned Delver gaming here. Alright, opponent, don't kill me. They probably have the ability to turn 1 us with like some Grim Monolith type action. But thankfully that wasn't it. Yes, we will have a Lightning Bolt here. So we have a choice here as to whether we want a Questing Druid or Wasteland them playing out the Channeler. That's not an easy choice. Now we do want to make a land drop, and the Questing Druid can find us a counterspell. So I think we're going to do the Questing Druid Seek the Beast line. Our opponent might not play into our open mana either, which might give us a little bit more wiggle room. Is Grim Monolith our hit here? I don't think it is. I think we want to hit the payoffs rather than the mana. The One Ring. So this is where we cast Seek the Beast. And we've got 7 hits of Force. Alright. So we found a Force. Let's see if this is good enough or if our opponent can force back. If they have the Force, again, I think our chances of winning this game are very low without something like a Null Rod here. Alright, there's the One Ring. And this game is probably out of our reach at this point. But, you know, there are worlds where things can go a little bit differently for us. Unfortunately, this tropical island is not very helpful. We needed a volcanic here. So we're always... Well, we're not actually attacking 3 because of the One Ring. So we're always playing something to the board here, I think, rather than holding up the Pyroblast. Like, holding up the Pyroblast doesn't get us anywhere is the issue. But our opponent can just kill us next turn. Okay, so I think we're taking out the Sea of the Synod. I think this is our opportunity to get a creature into play, and then next turn we have to go shields up. And hope that that's good enough. Because if we don't put a threat now, we're probably not putting a threat in play ever again. Now we could have put the Questing Druid in instead of the Channeler, but the Channeler will help us find more business. We basically need this turn to not be us being dead. Because we can untap, we can Lightning Bolt a Painter's Servant, get ourselves a little bit of protection from a combo. But this One Ring, next time it activates, is drawing 3 cards, and we just can't beat that sort of card advantage. As a Painter's Servant, it's going to name red so they can Hydroblast, which is awkward, for sure. And as a Saga, that's another problem we're going to have to worry about later down the line. If they've got a Shadow Spear, then they might just be able to race us with good old-fashioned creatures. So, things not going to plan. Ooh, interesting. They're just going aggro with their Hydroblast. Interesting. Very interesting. You can fire this off now. We are trying to get Delirium on our creature. We kind of do need a land, so I guess we put this on top of our library, but it doesn't feel good. Like, is double Pyroblast even going to be good? I don't think so, actually. Let's just put this into our graveyard. I'm playing a Force of Will here. Yep. Yikes. So crashing for 3. Our opponent takes 2 in their upkeep, so they're going to be on 9, but they're going to draw 3 cards, and that's probably going to be enough to win them the game here. They get to win the game once it says a Saga pops off. Showing if we could answer the Painter. So if we answer the Painter, then they can just get a Shadow Spear and make some guys. If we don't answer the Painter, they'll just kill us. I feel pretty powerless in this one. A Mox Opal. Seat of the Synod. An Emery. Sure, so this means that even if we remove the Painter, they can get it back next turn anyway. And with the amount of cards they're drawing, they'll almost certainly have enough mana. Meltdown doesn't do an awful lot. It takes out the Seat and the Mox. Maybe that's enough to slow our opponent down for the vital turn we need to win this game. So maybe that's our play here. Like I said, we don't have a Null Rod to draw to, which is my go-to in these sort of matchups. In a lot of the decks I play, I just think it does more work than Meltdowns a lot of the time. But obviously our opponent, you know, is going to have ways of trying to answer that too. Chain of Vapor, targeting their Grim Monolith. Okay. Yep, they're bouncing our creature now. Interesting. No, we're not going to sacrifice our only land. Okay, so they're going to play the Monolith out. This guarantees them the mana to combo next turn. Yikes. No, we got nothing here. We got punked pretty hard there. Like, the Hydroblasts are very good against some of the stuff we're trying to do, like Dragon's Age Channeler and such, and the Seek the Beast. And yeah, basically, the One Ring resolved in 2 games, and we lost, because that's basically what the One Ring does. If you untap with it, you win the game, so... Unfortunate, let's go to round 3. We're still in search of a match win. Alright, our opening hand for this round is kind of a slow one, where we can play a controlling role against some decks. So if our lightning bolts are going to be good, then this hand is alright. We can then sort of go into a Questing Druid type plan. I think this is okay to keep. So many matchups these days, if you have less cards to begin with, you can feel really far behind. So our hand is good against some things. Like, combo decks are going to beat us with a hand like this, but I don't think we can mulligan to try and beat a combo deck. But we can beat some creature decks relatively well with this. And like the mirror should be okay. We've got a card advantage and we've got 2 1-for-1 removal spells. And then we can probably draw into a blue card for this force when the time comes. But let's see what our opponent's on. A mountain. Alright, not a huge fan of what mountain could signal for us. We're going to play this out in case we need to go and get our basic island. Because our opponent might be putting a Blood Moon into play this turn. Or they might be putting a Sticker Goblin in. We do still have two Volks left in our deck because we run 4 of those. Okay, Ancient Tomb. What flavour of busted deck are we? Alright. So we let this come in. And then we will Lightning Bolt it right in the heart. So this could be a slow Goblin's hand, or it could be Mono Red Prison. I think it's more likely to be Prison, with the not doing anything on turn 1. And Rabble Master being the turn 2 play. That's kind of slow for regular Goblins, but maybe this was just a test spell to see if it resolved or not. And because we're not applying pressure, they can take it a little bit slower and try and play around the counter spells in our hand. Again, I think we are playing the Misty Rainforest out so we can get an island in case our opponent is playing Blood Moons. Let's get a little bit more information about what our opponent's working with here. Or we could look at our top of our library. A Wasteland. Do we want a Wasteland or not? That is a tough call. Don't really want another land. If our opponent's Goblins, then it can be quite useful. I think we're going to crack this now for a basic island. I don't want the Wasteland here, I don't think. We want a blue card for our Force of Will. We found a blue card for the Force of Will, so it paid off there. Another Ancient Tomb. That's good for our approach of trying to reduce our opponent's life total to 0. What is this going to be, though? A Goblin Ringleader. So we are on the Ringleader plan. Do I want them to draw a bunch of cards here? I think we should Seek the Beast first and see what we find. Hold on, nothing, isn't it? So if our opponent has a Cavern of Souls, this Force of Will doesn't get any better than this. That's a tough, tough call, that one. If we play out the Force of Will now, we do lose the ability to interact with the Muxus. They're going to have so many cards from this. Yikes. I think we're just going to let them have this one and try and counterspell the Muxus and hope they haven't been sandbagging a Cavern. I think if they had a Cavern this turn, they would have played it instead of the Ancient Tomb, instead of taking the life. But our pause there probably tells our opponent that we have some sort of counter magic. Also, Goblins confirmed, which is nice to know. That changes our play pattern slightly. Okay, Bombardier's Matron Battlecry Goblin. That's a good selection of cards. But they have 2 Ancient Tombs, so if we can actually put a threat in play, we can maybe start doing something with our time. Right, so we take 2 from the Ringleader, and then we get to maybe put this Questing Druid into play. If we draw a Tropical Island, that'd be a bit sad, so we can get the value out of playing this card from exile. I do like a bit of value. Okay, we drew a Murktide. That's kind of a big boy, but that's a little bit later on. I think we want that one. So we get ourselves a Tropical Island. Cast our Questing Druid. Play out our Bauble and see what our opponent has for us. A Blood Moon. That means that we don't get to play our Murktide Regent if they play a Blood Moon. But if they're playing a Blood Moon, that's like one of the worst things they can do at this point. Does not seem like a great play to me. Like, they have a bunch of good cards in hand. And then this Blood Moon that we have already played around a little bit. Wasteland, that can stop a Cavern if that's what comes down this turn. But they do get a turn of Cavern mana, which could be enough to just end us if they can put a Muxus on the stack. Alright, this Broadside Bombardiers. It is Broadside Bombardiers. We will shoot down the Bombardiers. Because that is a scary Magic the Gathering card. It also grows our Questing Druid. And gives us the options for a bigger Murktide. Yep, I'll take 2. Questing Druid. I think we are on Team Murktide right now. It's not going to be the largest Murktide you've ever seen. But it grows our Questing Druid. And it's pretty good alongside the other tools we have at our disposal here. I believe I'm going to Wasteland our opponent's Ancient Tomb. So that they've been missing land drops, so that will just mean that they won't be able to double spell next turn. And I think we can beat any one of those spells from our opponent. So if they tap their Ancient Tomb, they take 5, and then their Ancient Tomb is offline. So this is the turn they have to make it count. Glad we kept a hand with Lightning Bolts in. Name Sticker Goblin. I think we cut this one off now. Let's not mess around. This shuts off their Ancient Tomb. For next turn. This should be very difficult for them to beat now. I guess Soul Land, Simian Spirit Guide, Name Sticker Goblin. That would kind of have to be what happens here. But that would be all the mystery cards in their hand. Another Ancient Tomb. Okay. Broadside Bombardiers. Okay, so this doesn't work either, right? Because we just cast a spell, but they obviously don't know that. So they attack here, they fling their ringleader at our Murktide for 6. That kills our Murktide, but then they have no blockers. They just have to hope we don't have a non-green spell. But we have one in hand, so we don't even have to show them more cards from the top of our deck. We can just do this. That's 5. That'll do. Alright, so we got that one. Removal was good. So this is an interesting matchup because Grafdigger's Cage is actually good against Muxus. So that's nice. The Hydroblast is good against some of their stuff. Now, Force of Negation can counter things like Chalice and Blood Moon, but Meltdown can kind of do similar things after the fact in terms of the Chalice. So I prefer the Meltdowns here. The Dazes don't feel great right now. I think we have to keep the Force of Will, because they obviously counter creatures, and we want our removal spells. So I reckon this is about where we're at here. Yeah, I can be down with this. Again, we want cantrips here because we need to make a big Murktide, because that's the way we hold down like the fairer hands they have. You just say no to a lot of their creatures being able to attack and just gobble them all up with a big dragon. But they can have things like Pyroblast, they can have things like Chalice of the Void. They obviously have treasures off of the Fair of the Mirror Breaker. But like things like Force of Negation, it can hit Blood Moon or Chalice, and it can hit Fair of the Mirror Breaker. But then what, right? It doesn't necessarily do much beyond that. Whereas our Meltdown, we can draw it after the fact and deal with it. Whereas the Force of Negation, we have to have at the right time, and they have to have one of the spells that it's good against. Opening Hand does not have mana, so it's got to go back. This does not have any realistic mana. Like, we could ponder here and try and find a red source, but then, like, what are we doing, really? I think we can do better. Okay, so we need to keep a Delver here. We can keep a Brainstorm to go with this. And so maybe we get rid of... We have a fetch land, so I'm kind of more interested in the Brainstorm than Ponder, but I think we still want the Ponder. So the thing about the Bauble is it allows us to flip, or be more likely to flip the Delver and adds to Delirium, and might find us a blue card earlier. That's a tough call. I think we do throw back the Bauble here, though. See how bad turn 1 is for us. We might be in a position where we have to ponder turn 1 instead of playing Delver, which is a bit yikes, to be honest with you. Okay, it wasn't a Chalice of the Void. That's exciting. Force of Will will be a nice draw here. So, are we pondering for a Force of Will, or are we just playing our Delver? I think it's the ponder here. Nope, that's in any order in a shuffle. Okay. So that's the downside of doing the ponder line. We didn't get any of the things we wanted, and now we don't have a creature in play either. So we can Brainstorm next turn, and then use a fetch land to fix it up a little. Alright. Force of Will, not such a great line versus Cavern of Souls anyway. What uncounterable goblin is this? Sticker Goblin, just a Rabble Master. Just a friendly little neighbourhood Rabble Master to bash our face in. Alright, we take 1. So I think we Brainstorm this turn and consider dropping a Delver or Lightning Bolt in their creature, depending on what happens. We could Wasteland. Okay. Right, let's Brainstorm first. Okay. That's a lot of stuff, isn't it? So we're going to want these Lightning Bolts. What is our play this turn? So we have several choices. We could Lightning Bolt the Rabble Master. We could Wasteland the Cavern of Souls and hope they don't have the mana to do anything else. Or we could play the Delver. Not a big fan of some of those options. I think we're going to... Right, then we're going to put these two back and Lightning Bolt the Rebel Master because this guy gets out of hand. But if our opponent casts a Sticker Goblin in their first main, we get to kill that first, so things don't completely snowball out of our control. So we want to see our opponent miss a land drop here. Do something relatively inconsequential would be nice. And then we get to kill this, we untap, we get to Delver and Lightning Bolt and Wasteland. And that's hopefully going to be good enough. City of Traitors. Okay, so you have the one red source for goblins at present. Broadside Bombardiers. That's a bit of a nasty one, isn't it? Okay, I think we Lightning Bolt the Rabble Master still because we have a Lightning Bolt for the Bombardiers. And this saves us the most damage, I believe. Yep, so we take 3 here and then we might take another 2 if they decide to throw the 1-1. But our next turn looks very good on this board. It didn't throw anything. Interesting. So we're drawing a land here, but I do think we need to get this Wasteland down. So we're not going to be doing double bolt. So it is very much the 1-2-3 plan we have lined up. Take out the Cavern. This Delver won't be flipping because of the Druid on top of our library. So again, we're going to hold the Lightning Bolt until the right time in case they do a Sticker Goblin that we need to actually say, no, we can't let this resolve because it will kill us. We will lose a creature to the Broadside Bombardiers if that happens, but we at least get to go to our next turn and then Lightning Bolt it. Thorn of Amethyst. Alright, let's just take out this Bombardiers now. I don't think our opponents should be boarding in loads of prison pieces against Delver. I think the Goblin plan is just naturally pretty good against Delver. So just do your natural thing. Don't go overboard. This will not flip. Unless I've forgotten something, but I'm pretty sure there's a Questing Druid on top of our library. No, I'll not reveal that. Go attacks. So that Ancient Tomb, again, is going to help us out a bunch. If our opponent does nothing, we get to fetch up a Trop and cast our Seek the Beast, which can then come down as a Questing Druid, and maybe if we've got a land, we also have a Lightning Bolt up then. But if our opponent plays a creature we have to Lightning Bolt, then that's the nature of the game. A lot of colourless mana in our opponent's mana pool there. And a Cavern. Okay, we're going to see some level of Muxus shenanigans. They got a Spirit Guide. Because that would suck big time. Have they just been... Oh, the One Ring. Oh, we're just going to be beaten by the One Ring over and over again. Certainly possible. Yeah, like we can Questing Druid to get some cards, but then we don't have the mana to pay through the Thorn anyway. Yeah, check one from this guy. I guess the One Ring makes some sense in this sort of deck. It's just another must counter card. And for the grindier matchups, it can actually deal with something really aggro. Do some work, I suppose. Not sure if it's right, but playing powerful cards is still a powerful thing to do. Okay. Are we going to flip our little friend? We are not, no. Right, Wasteland is the obvious play here, I think. And then we have choices. We can hold up Lightning Bolt, or we can deploy Questing Druid plus Dragon's Rage Channeler. And just hope to get through a turn. Which I think is what I'm opting for here. We're not going to have access to this ponder. It's just going to go away. But we're putting meat on the board. Our opponent's got an Ancient Tomb and a One Ring chipping away at them. The One Ring will eventually win in the game. So we just need to kill them. So that's the plan here. Go aggro. Hope that we can kill them before the One Ring wins them the game. So we've got 3 types in our graveyard. We need a creature or an artifact or something. Shatterskull Smashing, paying 3 life for that. Okay. That's something. Now they can spend all the life they want if they win the game this turn. Like Sticker Goblin, Muxus. Put us in the dirt. But they do have to roll a 6 if they're going for a Sticker Goblin into Muxus here. Also, our Lightning Bolt can just be straight to the face, which might be enough to win us the game. Alright, here's a Sticker Goblin. Don't roll a 6, please. I rolled a 5. Okay, I'll take the average draw there. So it's going to be Battle Cry. No, it's going to be Bombardiers. Okay. And a Battle Cry Goblin. So the Bombardiers does allow them to sack the One Ring if it starts dealing them too much damage. Which is a 2 damage. Plus another 6. That's 8 damage. I think we're just going to take this. And they're going to throw something on all our creatures, I would imagine. Probably the Goblin token at, your guess is as good as mine. Maybe the Questing Druid, maybe one of the creatures that can have flying. Partly depends on what the rest of their hand involves. Okay, they're going for the Delver. Sure. That does give us Delirium for our Channeler, though. Flooded Strand. What does this achieve? Very little. So, if we attack with 2 guys... They're going to 7 here. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So they will have to block here. And then we can maybe try and blow them out with the Lightning Bolt. If they don't block, they die. They don't know that, but they will. If they block, if they double block, we probably have some interesting choices there. Let's see what they go for. They're going for the chump here. So we can deal 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We can put our opponent to 1 right now, which turns off the Ancient Tomb. Is that good enough to turn off the Ancient Tomb? So this Broadside Bombardiers is dealing us 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's 10 damages. That's a tough one. Do we shut off our opponent's mana? Or do we shut off their creature? This is a really big turn here. If they have like just a mountain and have this, then they do just kill us. I think we are supposed to hit the Bombardiers here. We're going to surveil for us deck. Give us something juicy. Grafdigger's Cage is fine against Muxus, but that's not really what this game's about anymore. We are showing them that card though. We're looking for a removal spell. Hydroblast, Lightning Bolt, that sort of jazz. They will be able to use their Ancient Tomb this turn. They'll be on 4. So, a little bit awkward for us. They do have to win this turn. So this is why the Grafdigger's Cage isn't doing anything for us there. Alright, they've got a mana source there. So they have available to them 4 mana right now, but they've got 6 cards in hand, so there could be Spirit Guides. Chromox, not so helpful with their own Thorn here. If that's something they have. Our opponent's going to 2. That means they reckon they can probably win the game this turn. Or they have something that gives them a shot at winning the game, like a Sticker Goblin into more friends. Okay. We're kind of hoping they're rolling the dice here. Broadside Bombardiers. Now, we did the maths on this before. And as long as they don't have another piece of red mana like a Spirit Guide, we're okay. Okay, they have a Spirit Guide, so this is lethal, right? So this is 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So let's make sure that our opponent sees it. I believe they will. They're also very far behind on clock, which is interesting given the nature of their deck. Alright, so they're going to get us just here, I think. Yep, so they can throw Battlecry Goblin, they can throw the One Ring, they can throw Thorn of Amethyst. Alright, over to us. The Dazes become better on the draw than they were on... Oh, sorry, on the play than they were on the draw. So I'm a little bit more interested in having these. We'll say no to this Borrower. We'll trim on Ponder and a Bauble here, just to have the Dazes in. Okay, I believe I want to play the threat before I play the cage. So our play is turn 1, Island, Delver of Secrets. That covers us against Blood Moon. And if they just wombo us turn 1, that's annoying. But it's not very likely. Which I've just spoken into existence by saying that, but there you go. We can do this into the cage and hold up Lightning Bolt. Ancient Tomb. It's going to be a Chalice. A Thorn. Okay. Thorn is definitely annoying. So are we holding up Lightning Bolt or are we just deploying this Grafdigger's Cage? A tough choice, that one. I think we're probably holding up the Bolt for Sticker Goblin here. And if they don't do anything, we at least have the Brainstorm. So we can set up our Delver if we don't find a good Lightning Bolt target. But I imagine our opponent's deck full of creatures is going to have some good Lightning Bolt targets right now. Cavern on Goblin, not the biggest surprise. Broadsword Bombardiers, that's a good one to kill. Alright. Paying 2 mana for our spells is a real deal here. What do you say, Delver of Secrets? Fancy being a 3-2? Help us out. Right, it did help us out. That's I think we're just going to do the same play we did last turn of holding up the Brainstorm or Lightning Bolt to stop the worst excesses of our opponent's turn from getting us. Because Grafdigger's Cage stops the Muxus, right? But it doesn't stop, like, Sticker Goblin, Battlecry Goblin, pump some mana, kill you that way. Whereas the Lightning Bolt is kind of the most flexible tool against the Goblin deck right now. In terms of what we have anyway. Oh, another Ancient Tomb. Okay, we've seen the Muxus this turn. So this is the punish for not playing out the cage last turn. Perhaps. But maybe, just maybe, it doesn't do enough. Alright, here it comes. Name Sticker Goblin and Goblin Ringleader. Okay, so they're going to resolve their Ringleader first. So let's see what their Ringleader finds. Just a Rabble Master. So we could Lightning Bolt this. Or we could Lightning Bolt their face. And then a Lightning Bolt off the top wins us the game. Sure. I'm going to go for the trying to win the game line, I think. If they have a Battlecry Goblin... Oh, there it is. That's a disaster, isn't it? Is this lethal? I haven't done the maths, but probably. Pump into this. This is 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 for the little friend, 16, 17, 18, 19. Yikes. Alright, that's a problem. That is a problem. So we kill this, we take 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So we have to Lightning Bolt this Battlecry Goblin. Yuck. Yeah, if we had just hit the Sticker Goblin, we'd be in a better spot than we are now. But maybe we draw a Lightning Bolt and our opponent taps their Ancient Tomb. That's kind of the level we're working on right now. Right, we go 6. Our opponent is likely to kill us next turn. Is Chump Block here good enough? I think it is. We block here. So our Delver blocks here. We take 4, 5. Alright. We can't crack our fetch land though. If we do this. But if they tap their Ancient Tomb, they die. So probably just serve with everything. And then we have a shot at drawing something good. Okay, does Crystal Vein change anything? Means they don't have to tap their Ancient Tomb, so they're not definitely dead, so we're going to have to find an answer. Yeah, that would do it. Yeah. Goblins, pretty smashy. Yeah, I don't think our opponent's hands were particularly strong. The Thorn actually did end up making the difference here, I think. We did get punished for not playing out the Grafdigger's Cage, but our opponent did just have Sticker, Goblin, Battlecry lines anyway, so I think they might have had us coming or going regardless. The Thorn did a lot more work than I was expecting it to, and I think this is better than some of the packages I've seen people bringing in, but our opponent did have the Chalice as well. I don't think you want to board in too many things. Whenever I've played Goblins, it felt like we were just rolling over Delver easily, so I don't necessarily know you need to be ruining your core engine that much. Alright, let's go to round 4. Alright, we've got a classic Delvering, so let's Delver. We're just going to play Delver itself. We're going to Wasteland our opponent, we're going to Daze them, we're going to Ponder for some more business, it's going to be great. Mana Confluence. Okay, our opponent's playing Dredge, I think. Good luck hitting with this Cabal Therapy. You probably named Brainstorm, I would imagine. Oh, they target themselves to put their own creature into the bin. Understood. Alright, our Dazing and Wastelanding plan. Not looking the strongest here. So we're in a weird spot here where we need to Wasteland our opponent off of Cephalid Colosseum to slow them down here. And then we're playing out our Delver and hoping that things go to plan. Oh, double Narcomoeba hits pretty solid though. They have a bridge from below, so they can pick apart our hand quite nicely here. I think they take the Delver so that we don't have a creature and we can't remove their bridges later on. And they probably leave the other Narcomoeba. They only want to do... Yeah, I think it's probably the Delver here, right? They leave the other cards in our hand because they don't really care about them. And they'll probably find a Cabal Therapy later on down the line, but they might have to Cabal Therapy themselves because they do not have access to another Dredger. Targeting themselves, yep. So they're going to make themselves a zombie here. They're going to Cabal Therapy naming Golgai Grave Troll. There it goes, and then they can do that again next turn. There's a Cephalid Colosseum. We've hopefully shut down. Alright. We have a creature in play. So this might deter some attacks from our opponents because we can remove bridges by blocking. They can block with their flyer, so they can chip in for 1 damage this turn. Yeah, we don't have the best array of Graveyard Hate. We have 2 Graveyard Hate cards, I think, on our sideboard. So I'm going to have a pretty bad time this matchup. Alright, there's the Narcomoeba pecking for 1. The Jellyfish's peck. It's not jellyfish, it's an illusion. It just looks like a jellyfish. Alright, they had a land here for Cephalid Colosseum. Yikes, this is going to be a bit of a disaster for us, I would imagine. Alright, there's Hogax, there's Cabal Therapies, there's all this stuff. There's no way we win this game, right? How do we beat Hogax? I guess we can Daze the Hogax, but they're going to Cabal Therapy the Dazes out of our hand first. Yeah, no, we're not winning that one. Our opponent did their thing very effectively there. Okay, so Grafdigger's Cage is good. Surgical Extraction is good. They look like they are on the rainbow build, which means Faith is Looting or blue spells. So Pyroblast not as good as it would be against the black-blue version. Force of Negation is pretty reasonable. We just need to stop our opponent from doing anything. Removal is nice because we point at our own creatures. Brazen Borrower, bouncing a Hogax isn't the most useful thing in the world at the end of the day. But 3/2 flyers, bouncing Icarids, that's pretty reasonable. We're probably not going to have time to leverage Questing Druid in this sort of matchup. That means you probably don't need as many Ponders because we're not going to have the time. God, this matchup is horrible, isn't it? So basically what we're doing is trying to counter the first thing that happens and then hoping that our Graveyard Hate is not only drawn in our hand but does enough. Okay. We don't have a win condition, but we get to stop our opponent's deck from functioning. So that's pretty good. Our opponent's gone to 6. Our deck is pretty good at mulliganing anyway, so they've gone to 5. Gone to 4. Alright, we drew our 1 on sideboard card. We do have 2 pieces of Graveyard Hate. This is probably the better of the 2, so that's something. Now what? Putrid Imp. Okay, we're on bad creature beatdown. That's fine by me. Let's Ponder. I think it's any order in shuffle. Looking for a threat. I'll take a Force of Will. It's not nothing. Right, so they are going to continue dredging here. So our opponent might have something like a Shenanigans here. A dredging 2, which actually ends up being alright for us. Because we get to Force of Negation that, so they don't just get to dredge it every turn and kill us. Mana Confluence. The bad creature beatdown continues. Alright, Brainstorm, we're going to need a threat somewhere along the lines. I guess we're just going to put these back. And we'll crack this now. Might as well. We could have kept the Wasteland to try and keep our opponent off, but I'm not even sure that's necessary. Alright. The bad creature beatdown has improved now. They've got a Putrid Imp with 2 power. An almighty 2 power creature. Certainly more than we've got going on right now. But we're looking for cantrips, we're looking for threats. Okay. Black and white. A Golgari Thug. I think we're counterspelling this one. It's all getting a bit weird. We might lose to bad creature beatdown here. A Lightning Bolt. That certainly changes the math a little bit on the clock. We get to take out the Putrid Imp here. And probably discard some amount of cards here. Some of their cards are just, frankly, better in their graveyard than they are in play. So, right, that's one of them. And they're going to discard anything else? No. So they got 1 Dredger in the graveyard. We only take 2 this turn instead of 4. That's quite a good reduction of the clock. Our opponent's got all 4 Faithless Lootings in their graveyard, which is cool. Cephalid Colosseum. That can do some stuff for our opponent. Yikes, we're destroying all the counter magic. We do need to find a way to actually win the game, but our threats do win the game very quickly if they're like Murktide and stuff. They can Cephalid Colosseum here because they have Threshold and just try and fix their hand up. But it comes at a cost of one of their only lands. But if they're drawing 3 cards, they're relatively odds on to hit one. You've got like, what, 12 lands in the deck? They've gone through 4 of them. You've got Lotus Petals as well. Right, our opponent just passed. A Delver of Secrets. There we are. It's something. So what they can do here is just put a Hogak into play. Because they have 2 creatures. If they have 1 in hand, they can put it into play. But they're going to continue beating down. We get to see the top card of our library, and then we can decide if we want to crack our fetch or not. We're not sacrificing our Delver of Secrets here. A Cabal Therapy targeting us. Interesting. Let's just get rid of this forever. I'm quite likely to hit because we haven't been playing anything, so what would we have in hand, right? And they can't flash these back, so... Right, Delver, what have you found us? Another Delver of Secrets. Okay. Like, that's fine. Like, that's one of the sort of things we need here. Just more threats. Just attack for 1. If we can flip these creatures, then we have a 3-turn clock, which beats what our opponent's got going on. Our opponent doesn't have bridges. Don't need to worry about that just yet. Is it time for the Desperation Colosseum? We're going to see a Narc Amoeba. I'm going to counterspell this one. Just get that bad creature beatdown gone. Alright, Delver, what's the first one I'm going to see? A Brainstorm. So yes. And yes for this. Now we have a strong threat presence on the board. We get to win the game in a few turns in theory. Are we firing off a Brainstorm right now? Possibly we might have another threat. I think it's worth doing. Some Lightning Bolts. I don't hate those. So I think we are putting back these 2 lands. Jamming the Wasteland. Saying no to the Colosseum here. And we have a Counterspell to get us through this next turn cycle. And then we have the Lightning Bolt to finish our opponent off next turn. Our singular Grafdigger's Cage doing some real work for us there. Kind of made dredging pointless, which is nice. We don't care about Hogak, we just sail above it. Yep, bad creature beatdown continues. A Lion's Eye Diamond. Sure, I don't care about that one, that feels like a trap. Do this now so that we have access to our Force of Negation. That's lethal in play. Alright, we got there. Problem is, we now have to do that on the draw, which is a problematic thing to try and do. Do we want the Dazes? Like, I think we do still want the Daze. Our opponent doesn't have a lot of mana, generally speaking. So I think we're just going back in again. But I do not expect to win this game 3. Dredge is pretty good against Delver as a general rule. Because Delver tends to skimp on Graveyard Hate, and you need big dedicated Graveyard Hate to beat Dredge. Now, Delver obviously has hands that beat anything, but... Okay. I think we have to keep this no-lander. We've got some redraws here, but our hand is so good. I think we have to keep this one. Like, if we draw like a Volcanic Island, we're absolutely laughing with this hand. Right, we counter the first thing our opponent attempts to stop them getting stuff going on. We draw a Volcanic Island here, please. We did not draw the Volcanic Island. Okay. What's our opponent got over there? Bridge from below, sure. Alright, so we're drawing a lightning bolt next turn. They've seen that we kept a no-lander though. Maybe that means that it will... Oh dear. Maybe that means I will just Cabal Therapy us now, naming Grafdigger's Cage. That kind of ruins what made this hand really good. Because why would we keep a no-lander? It's either just nothing but counter spells. I don't think we would keep a nothing but counter spells hand. And I think our opponent would know that. A Putrid Imp. Okay, this lets them start off their shenanigans. So this is the turn where we have to draw the land, otherwise I think we'd probably lose. Okay, we did not draw the land. I think I would still keep this hand in this matchup. But not going our way. Alright, they pitched a Niko. This guy is going to come back this turn, I imagine. So the correct play here is to dredge in the upkeep so that you are discarding, so you know you have another creature. So you probably do it in response to the Ichorid trigger. That's what I would do. Unless they've got other plays they want to make. Okay. Not that exciting. 4 is not a 0 amount of damage. Maybe they think we've got surgicals and that's why they're playing it a little bit slow. That bridge from below we knew about was gone. Now they get to make 2 guys. I think we lost our window there. Volcanic Island. Okay. Here's something. Now our opponent might just have some artifact destruction. We don't beat a bounce spell because we got Force of Negation, not Force of Will. Right, they're discarding a Faith is Looting. Now they're going to do a big dredge in response to the Grafdigger's Cage. Let's pop the graveyard out. I found a Narcomoeba, but no additional dredges. That was a very poor dredge. That bodes well for us, but they have a lot of stuff in play. And when their guys die, they will get zombie tokens. So we need to have a creature and lose a creature first. So it's asking for a lot. These guys can't come back due to cage. But, you know, this is still 6 damage a turn. So that will kill us in 3 turns. So what is our strategy here? Bolt the zombie tokens. And then try and play a Murktide. Cabal Therapy targeting us. No, thank you. We need this Murktide is the problem. Alright. Goodbye, Brainstorm. Yikes. And Mishra's Bauble. That's not the one, is it? Right, what are we drawing next? Not a land, as it turns out. Okay, I would have liked to land, but I guess that still takes us closer to 1. So we take 2, 4, 5 this turn. Just an Narcomoeba. Okay, so our opponent has a Hogak. That's terrible news. We're getting absolutely slaughtered here. Yep. Yikes. 1, 2, 3. Can't even do a big enough Murktide to be relevant here. No. We kept to 1 land and didn't pan out, but this matchup is so skewed, you need to have those big haymakers. I don't think we win this game without a piece of Graveyard Hate. And we only have 2 pieces of Graveyard Hate in our deck. So having the counterspell, the Graveyard Hate, and 2 redraws, I think is good enough to keep. And I would do that again, but yeah, this matchup feels horrible. We're kind of running into stuff that needs dedicated hate, and we don't have a dedicated hate, you know. The artifact matchup, you know, we need null rods really to beat that. We don't have them. This one, we need Graveyard Hate, and we only have 1 piece that's like a proper haymaker, so It's an awkward one. Let's go to the final round. We're trying to get 2-3 now. Wait, we're not even trying to get 2-3. We're just trying to get a 1-4. Yikes. Terrible, terrible time. We're on the play. It's a little bit of a slow hand that we can sort of ease our way in, but I think this is fine. We've got a decent amount of card advantage. We've got a little valve against something spooky. Don't want to get just blacked by combo. Okay, our opponent's got a 5. Very happy we kept this Force of Will Daze hand. Alright, can we avoid the 0-5? Let's play out our fetch land. We can get an island if our opponent is just like a Blood Moon deck, but I don't believe they are. There's a Daze there. So I think we are going to Tropical Island. And we're cracking this. Play around anything that might get us. Right, no end of turn Entomb. No additional plays from our opponent there. Alright, time to seek some beasts. Right, this Daze, not a lot of use. I'm happy to play a land out here. Play our Questing Druid, just start doing something with our time. Let's do the little scry on ourselves. See if we like the top card of our library. Dragon's Rage Channel, I do like that card. I will draw that rather than cracking our fetch. Gives us more pressure, makes all of our counter spells actually do a little bit more too. Getting that Surveil off would be nice. What's our opponent playing? Grief, pitching, Thoughtseize. Alright, we've got 3 counter spells. They're going to take one of them. Now they might be able to play around a Daze, but it is what it is. They took the Force. Right, second main phase, they're cracking their fetch land for a Badlands. A Faithless Looting. Interesting. I think I do actually want to counterspell this. Just anything that lets them put something spooky in their graveyard that can kill us. And this also gives us more of a clock. Right, we'll play out the Channeler. Our opponent's been stuck on mana here, so we are definitely wastelanding them. Sorry about that, opponent. Right, our opponent did not like that, so they have scooped. So, it looks like Black-Red Reanimator. So this is Surge Extraction, this is Grafdigger's Cage, this is Force of Negation. There are arguments for some other cards. For example, Counterbalance, because a lot of their enablers are like 1 to 2 mana, so it can do work, but it's just quite slow for what it's trying to accomplish. We don't want the Unholy Heat. We do want the Lightning Bolts because they allow us to kill Grief, they allow us to kill Orcish Bowmarters and Doubtful Voidwalker if they're pivoting into that. We're probably trimming a couple of Ponders here and a Bauble. Something like that to make room for all these. Alright, then we're going to go in with this. We have Counter Magic and Graveyard Hate. And we have a threat. These are the tools that I require to beat a Reanimator deck. Our opponent kept 7, so we probably lose. Bloodstained Mire. And nothing else. Interesting. Another threat. That's not the worst. So they're probably going to entomb at end step here. They kept a 7-card hand. It's got to do something. So we let the entomb ride, and then we can Surge Extract it. No entomb. Interesting. What is in our opponent's 7-card Reanimator hand here? Another land. Playing around Daze. We have the Surge Extraction, so it's right to let this one resolve. Alright. Scrubland. So our opponent might be on a Show and Tell baseline. Are we playing out a Channeler here, or are we trying to ponder? I think we ponder because we might find a land as well here. Delver of Secrets, that can go into the graveyard. That's the creature component. I don't mind having a Daze here. It's not amazing though because we're just going to be stuck. But if we have to fight next turn, we at least get to get through these cards. Is that where I want to be? I think we want to shuffle and try and find a land. Right, a Wasteland. That is a land. I might keep our opponent off of Show and Tell for another turn. That's their line. If we fire for an instant, our creature becomes a 3/3. So hopefully next turn we can play a Channeler and maybe interact with our opponent and then do some Bolt into the face and all the good stuff. Love to see something just like a Doubtful Voidwalker here. And then also draw a land for turn would be nice. Grief. Archon of Cruelty. I believe we just let them hit here. They can't take us off of stopping them reanimating their grief right now, if that's their plan. They're taking the surgical extraction, sure. If their plan is to reanimate here, we pitch Force of Will and stop that. It's making me think about show and tell lines here. Exhume. Okay. Show and tell is on the cards now. Next turn. Delver of Secrets isn't what we need. This can go into the graveyard. Force of Will without a blue card. Let's play another guy. Swing. So we put our opponent to 15 here. And then next turn we can bash for 6. And then the turn after they die. So we need to not get hit by a show and tell here. Entomb. Yep. Like if we don't hit their reanimate, if we don't hit the exhume there, then they get us with the grief and take our Force of Will anyway. So this is just what happens when your reanimator opponent keeps a 7-card hand. Oh, they not have... Oh, that gives us a chance to draw a blue card. We did draw a blue card. Wowzers, trousers. Alright. I like our chances now. We might be able to dodge the 0-5. A Dark Ritual. 2 cards in our opponent's hand. If they cast a reanimate, we beat them anyway. So I think this is just Force of Will this. If they go land, animate dead, that sucks. Alright, right, let's scoop it up. And we got the match. Check it out. We dodged the 0-5. We did lose like 1, 2, and 3 of the rounds though. So it's not like we were just getting completely bodied left, right, and center. Alright, let's talk about this deck. So obviously a 1-4 is a terrible record, but I don't necessarily think that speaks too much about the deck. Because we've played Delver decks before, we've trophied with Delver decks, we've done poorly with Delver decks, we've done fine with Delver decks. You know, you're going to hit all the records because, you know, different decks interact differently with Delver, and you play enough Magic, you're going to have bad times as well as good times. But what can we say about this specific iteration of Delver? So Force of Negation is a 2-for-1 answer, which is really important in the combo matchups. But if you're in a fairer matchup, it can be awkward. So what was happening with us today was mainly things that I would like to address from the sideboard. So when we played against the Painter deck, we didn't really have like a big haymaker. Like Meltdown is pretty good, to be fair. But if they've got the One Ring and it resolves, we're just sunk. And we brought in loads of counter magic, but they forced it through and we couldn't beat that. Whereas something like a Null Rod really helps out. And you do see Delver decks running 1 Null Rod in the sideboard. Sometimes I'm personally a big fan because it's just a big no to the things that can just absolutely ruin you. And it's got a lot of uses as well, not just against the Artifact combo decks, but the Storm combo decks too. And like Stompy decks, such as 8-cast. Obviously, it has a little bit of counter synergy with Mishra's Bauble, but again, it's doing a lot more damage to your opponent than it is to you, and you're probably boarding out some number of Baubles in that situation anyway. I think I would prefer a Null Rod over the second Meltdown, just because of the One Ring deck, especially with Tony Scapone really pushing the dual decks and making that do very well at the moment. So that's something to think about. And then we had the Dredge deck matchup where you need a big graveyard haymaker, and we do have one. But obviously the thing about Delver is you kind of have lots of like 1 or 2 ofs in your deck for your sideboard because you have all the cantrips to find them. But in matchups like Dredge where you maybe need to find it immediately, you're kind of pressured into keeping the hands like we did, which didn't quite pan out. If we had more of this sort of effect, then we could delve a little deeper to try and get a more playable hand. But I think Counterspell, 2 redraws, and a Grafdigger's Cage against Dredge, that's worth keeping. Just because it doesn't work out doesn't necessarily mean it was a mistake. So it felt like some of our matchups didn't really work that well for us today, but also, Delver can beat any matchup. It has the tools to just, make a guy, do its thing, protect it with some spells, and you're away. But when your opponent successfully goes a little bit bigger than you, it can be a real struggle like we saw today, and certain spells resolving can just be the end of it. Like the One Ring resolving was pretty terrifying for us, which is kind of why I am into Canadian Threshold again at the moment. I do think Stifle is very good in that particular deck, and Stifle is good enough to see play in some Grixis decks now. So I'm probably going to jam some Canadian Threshold soon is what I'm saying. You're going to see a Canadian Threshold deck sometime this month, I imagine. Put my money where my mouth is, so to speak. But we've, on the channel before, we've showcased, you know, why Delver is good, why it smashes stuff, what it's good against. But today, we showcased a different side of the Delver deck. We did showcase some of its weaknesses. Losing to the mirror, you know, that's not so shameful. Like in the first game, our opponent had 1-for-1 removal. We had 2-for-1 cards. So they're probably going to end up coming out on top because it's basically a grind in that matchup. And some of the combo decks we lost to, you know, is just going to happen. Lots of combo decks running Force of Will these days, which is awkward for stuff. If they've just got one spell they need to resolve, then they can make sure that one spell resolves. And it can be pretty bad times for us. I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with the sideboard. Obviously, it was the correct sideboard for the Belgian Legacy Cup where Niko managed to win the tournament. So, you know, it's definitely the right sideboard at the right time there. I think for leagues, you want more dedicated hate. You know, you want the null rods, maybe a bit more graveyard hate, stuff like that. I think that's just because the nature of leagues are a little bit different to a big tournament because there's a lot of people playing Magic Online leagues where they're playing decks that they can smash out quick wins with. Sometimes, you know, grinding for trophies or whatever. And whereas when people go to a big paper event, they tend to play decks that are a touch slower, where they get to play the game a little bit more than just sort of like, you know, vomit their hand out and say, here we go, are we winning or losing? So there is a little bit of that going on sometimes. And it's important to note how the metas are different where you're playing. So I don't necessarily think there's anything wrong with the sideboard here. I think it was just geared towards a meta that isn't what we played against in the leagues today. So sorry about that, Niko, if you're watching this. We didn't quite do you justice. But once again, congratulations on a phenomenal win. It's nice to see slightly newer faces to Legacy getting some results at tournaments. Although, to be fair, most faces are slightly newer than mine when it comes to Legacy. I've been jamming this format for 18 years, I think. Something like that. I've been playing Legacy. So, yeah. Anyway, once again, congratulations, Niko. And thank you all so much for watching. And I hope you enjoy these midweek meta deck slots. Let me know if you do. It's something that was suggested to me by one of my subscribers. So hopefully you're all enjoying it. And if there's other sort of features or whatever you'd like me to do on my channel, by all means ask. The worst I can do is say no. And with that, I think I'm about done and ready to go to bed. So once again, thank you so much for watching. Remember to like and subscribe. And goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths as well as 3 tiers of support. A low-cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed turbo depths guide that is updated every month as well as regular articles, and lastly, the higher tier gives you all of the above as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.